You're a little blurred there. Maybe it needs to focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is April 24, 2024. It is 5 p.m. and I would ask Clerk Tara to get us started.
Moved by Dryfout, seconded by Drouillard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. I see none. Item 3 is the adoption of the draft minutes, which was included in your agenda package. Are there any changes council wishes to make? I don't see any, so they will be adopted as presented in your agenda. Clerk Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. Item 5, we have a delegation. It is Chris Ovsenek, and he was here to address council on council's use of lawyers. Chris, you've been here before, so come on up to the table and turn the microphone on and yep, the red button right in the middle.
Perfect.
Okay, we're here to listen.
Sorry, I'm just came from work, so I'm a little dirty. I would like to dress a little nicer for you esteemed folks. But yeah, I'm here today to talk about your guys' use of a lawyer. I just have a few questions. Am I allowed to communicate with you guys, like question you directly or no? Or as a group?
Here to present your delegation. We're here to listen.
Yeah, and I'll use up some of my time if it's okay to have you guys answer the questions perhaps. I mean, none of my questions have been answered so far in any other matter, whether that be written or in person or in this council meeting.
At this time, we will take note of any questions you have and we will
All right.
respond.
All right, so I wrote something down here just to get a little summary of it. I stand before you today not as a mere citizen, but as a guardian of our rights and an advocate for accountability and governance. It is with a deep sense of responsibility that I address the troubling issue of the municipality's utilization of legal representation, which in my experience has directly obstructed my fundamental rights as a Canadian citizen. I am compelled to raise 3 critical questions that demand immediate answers. Firstly, why was the decision made to employ legal counsel in a matter that concerns the accessibility of government services? As a taxpayer, we entrust our hard-earned dollars to ensure the smooth functioning of our community services, not to finance legal barriers that hinder our access to them. And I feel this municipality has been using the use of a lawyer to prevent the people, including myself, from accessing basic government services. Secondly, why does there persist a deafening silence from both the lawyer, Amy Dale, and the municipality when confronted with legitimate inquiries? As a citizen, it is our inherent right to seek clarification and demand transparency from our elected representatives. Yet time and time again, our concerns are met with a wall of silence, leaving us stranded in a void of unanswered questions and unaddressed grievances. Lastly, why have the inquiries I represented at our previous meeting fallen on deaf ears? It is the duty of the council, and indeed every arm of government, to listen attentively to the voices of the people they serve. Yet instead of accountability and responsiveness, we are met with an evasion and indifferences. It is important that we uphold the values upon which this nation was founded: integrity, transparency, and the unwavering commitment to safeguard the rights of every citizen. Any less is a betrayal of the trust placed in this council by the people they serve. Are you guys willing to answer any of these questions today? I want to know who hired the lawyer. Was it a municipality or the council or an individual from the council?
At this time, we're not prepared to answer the questions. We will formulate a response, but not this evening.
Do you agree that there was a lawyer hired by this municipality to deal with the issue from the previous council meeting?
We did retain a legal.
Can you explain to me why you retained legal?
I am not going to explain that to you tonight.
Were any of my questions of a criminal nature?
I am not going to answer that.
Did you say that I threatened one of your staff in this from the municipality in a conversation we had over the phone? Did you say that I was threatening your staff?
I am not going to answer your questions tonight.
Well, I'm going to say on the minutes and in front of
Yes,
the
it's
camera
recorded.
here that you said that I threatened your staff, and I've yet to receive communication with the local law enforcement. Because if there was a threat made to anybody at this municipality, like I said in the previous meeting, it is imperative that you guys reach out to local law enforcement and ensure that everyone's safe. Have you done that?
I am not going to answer them questions tonight.
Is your job to keep this staff and this municipality safe?
Yes.
Okay. When will I expect to receive answers from you guys or your lawyer?
From this evening or the previous one?
Anything?
Let me consult with staff. Okay,
Just to be sure everything's right.
but we are prepared to answer the questions from the previous delegation that were raised.
Yeah, he will be getting, I'm sure. We're just waiting on a
Okay.
couple more clarifications for you, but those are being done, yes.
You still put the property back up for sale.
It's not up to him.
It's on MLS.
It's been, I signed it today, it's not up. So,
We have suspended the sale of that property temporarily in order to answer all the questions.
You sure about that?
Yes,
yeah, the time elapsed. He come in today so I could sign it again because the time had elapsed. So it is signed and off again, so.
All right, but going back to the issues, like, are you guys, is that like common practice to use taxpayers' money to hire lawyers to deal with public?
is it common practice? No.
No.
But
So-
we do have retained legal counsel, as most municipalities do.
Well, was it to hinder my access to information, which I was able to acquire privately, or was it to help facilitate good communication with the municipality?
I believe to help facilitate communication with the municipality.
Do you agree your lawyer, Amy Dale, has done a good job at communicating at all?
Amy Dale has done a terrific job for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich over a number of topics and a number of years.
I'm talking about this issue.
I can't speak to that.
Well, if you can take a look at what Amy Dale has communicated with me, you will find that she has communicated nothing pertaining to anything to do with my questions.
As stated, we will answer the questions from your previous delegation. We have a few things that we want to make sure of.
So this municipality here, my counselor, other counselors are okay with our government using money to hire lawyers who aren't doing anything? Just what, to merely hinder our access to information and access to government? Like, you guys can speak for yourself, I assume, your own people, right? You don't need to go through him. You gotta all have a vote on something. You gotta all have like your input on something.
They do. They're not prepared to answer your questions
Or
tonight.
have they been told not to answer questions?
Absolutely not.
All right. So, but you're speaking for them.
I had a council, I am spokesperson for council.
Yeah. But now none of the counselors have even reached out to me regarding the issue, whether that be the property or the use of a lawyer. Is it not their elected job to do so?
They make decisions whether to respond or not to respond.
So there's more pressing issues than
We
government
have a
using
lot of
lawyers,
pressing issues.
and you use lawyers to deal with them,
Sometimes.
you know? So how you get what you want?
I'm not going to answer that.
Well, I feel there's a lack of competency when you can't communicate with your public, right?
We
You
have
could have just
reason-
answered my questions. You didn't need to waste taxpayers' money.
That's your opinion.
Well, I think it'll be the opinion of the people that elected you guys. Like, I'm sure you deal with multiple people. This isn't probably new behavior for this council and this government. I just find it troubling, you know? I'm gonna be here a lot longer than probably all of you, hopefully. Not to be rude, but I'm still young. I'm gonna be in this community for a long time. That's my goal. I mean, despite your guys' wishes, I'm sure. just based on the behavior and the attitude I receive from this government.
I'm going to allow you your 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take them.
Okay,
I'll be back next week.
really.
Yeah, well, there's native issues you guys haven't taken account. Yeah, respect everybody in the community, right? The landowners, the previous landowners, you know? Like we're not letting this one die. I don't think the community is gonna let this one slide. And I mean, you can intimidate us with lawyers all you want. It's not gonna work. We don't have endless finances like you do. You guys finance your stuff off the hardworking people in this community, people who own land, who pay taxes. And your lack of skills perhaps to do your job is resulting in your need for lawyers. And that's parliamentary.
Let's not get personal.
Well, it's not personal, it's pertaining to your ability to execute your tasks. Why you guys receive paychecks and you guys are hired by the community. You know, I'm not part of the boys club here. And I understand like you guys all come from different backgrounds and privileges, but I'm not going anywhere. We're going to fight this issue. This community will fight this issue. And especially the use of lawyers is disgusting, in my opinion.
Okay, that's your opinion. What are we doing? Time. The 10? Okay, care to finish? I'm gonna give you,
You know what? It's up to you. You're all people in the community. You all have businesses and have jobs, and we'll see you around. You know, you want to be part of the community, or you just want to create animosity with young people, right? Like how you'll be perceived by everybody, I suppose. I really don't care because not everyone's going to be around for very long. In the scheme of life. So I hope we can get some answers.
they will be coming.
I'll see you guys next week. I think I'm gonna bring some other neighbors with me too. Get some more inquiry.
It's an open house.
It's an open house. Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Okay. I'm not even gonna comment on that. But we did suggest that we had answer. We recorded from the previous delegation that there are questions that we should answer. Councillor Doulard.
I'm just, I know that we have bylaws pertaining to delegations on a single matter. This is a single matter, and is it twice in 6 months?
Yeah, so I did look at it, and so his first delegation was regarding Dymock line and that road allowance. This one was in relation to a lawyer and our practices with lawyers. So I will be reviewing if he puts in another delegation request, whether it constitutes twice in 6 months.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because I think we're stretching a thin line here when it's really regarding the same matter, and the lack of patience to wait to make sure that we have all the answers to give to you, because that had to have been in last week, which meant he didn't give even 10 days for all the answers to come to him. So it just seems like it's a colossal waste of council's time to continue, and for us to have to listen to personal attacks. I don't think anyone sitting around this council table deserves to be personally attacked. We do have a process that we must follow, and so I'm just hoping that we can answer the questions and put an end to this.
Tara did reach out for a legal opinion as well. Can we prevent this? And at this time, it was the opinion we couldn't. So we were working on that. I can assure you that. Councillor Rayfield.
We can't forget the fact that property was listed for sale in the best interest of the community. And it's surplus land that we felt we cannot use. And in this situation, we have been prudent and we've been planning and trying to raise funds. And I think that is in the best interest of our community. And I want to go on the record for saying that because there's no other motivation behind our thought process.
Okay, anything further? Let's hope we can get this thing put behind us. Okay. We have Jason with us. I'm sorry you had to hear that.
I hope you're nicer to us.
And he's going to discuss the CCTV findings report.
Yeah. This is why we have to sell that land.
Is there any audio visual? Okay, Jason, go ahead. You know everybody here.
Yep, I'm not sure, but my name's Jason Johnson. I'm with Dillon Consulting and basically I've been recently involved in looking at the sanitary collection system based on some issues that Tracy made me aware of. And so the purpose of this evening is just to sort of review the initial findings in the draft report that we've prepared, I believe, that was provided to council, and just kind of talk about what some of that means and sort of suggested next steps. And yeah. I guess just to start, I was originally made aware of the Leach Street issues and the sewage backing up, and so that's why we were retained originally, and why I got involved, because I have experience and expertise in kind of this area. We thought that it was maybe an I&I issue, inflow and infiltration. So basically, rain from the sky somehow getting into your sanitary collection system. And talking to Archie, your operator, it seemed to sort of correlate during wet weather events. And at pump station 1 there and on Shackleton there, during wet weather, he said it would be, within a couple of feet of the actual ground surface. And so when I looked at that, I realized very quickly that it means that one part of your system is surcharging, and when it's surcharging and not close to the ground surface, it's well above the elevation of the basement on the Leach Street subdivisions. And so that's the reason why we kind of, or Dylan or myself recommended a CCTV investigation to see if maybe there was something going on in terms of storm sewers connected directly, or maybe eaves troughs, that sort of thing that we've seen in the past. Good news in a way is that we didn't really find any smoking guns in terms of I&I through the CCTV work. I mean, it was still very worthwhile because as part of that CCTV work, there was a rating provided for every single length of sewer in the system, so that can be updated in your asset management plan going forward. And although we didn't find any I&I, at the back of the report in the appendix, we noted a number of areas where there was blockages and incrustation and just things for sure that should be addressed going forward for future operation and maintenance. But so that's that part of it. So then why is there issues in your system and we didn't find any I&I? Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, after talking to Archie a bit, it seems your system is just very much out of capacity, and it's very much actually over capacity, specifically in the downstream collection sections. So that's sort of the next steps, what we're working on right now, because it appears like, at initial cut, there was as much as, 20-30% significantly over capacity. And so right now, what I'm wondering is if your system is basically peaking during the weekend, and I think your pump station on Shackleton possibly is pumping nonstop, and it takes the whole week to basically get that flow down to where it just catches up, and then the weekend hits, it peaks, and almost like you're very close to the whole system, going really sideways. I think this is, so it's good in a way that we've looked at this and found this. Now we're just working through with Archie with the pump station numbers and everything to make sure it's, the numbers are correct, because this is not normal, I would say. Like, we certainly, I've come across this certainly before where there's been sewage issue, sanitary issues and whatnot, but maybe not to this extent. But also, I'm not, at this current time, I'm not exactly sure what the bottleneck is. I can tell you with almost certainty that the existing force main between the pump station 1 and the lagoons, or the treatment plant, the lagoons, is for sure undersized. And I think that's probably the first thing that's going to have to be addressed. It's only a 6-inch force main. It likely needs to be double the size. And so I think the issue Archie's having operating the system is, it doesn't matter how high he cranks the pumps, you can only, put so much, blow so much stuff through a straw, kind of thing. So until that's upsized, it's a sort of a serious issue. And then once that's fixed and the pumping and the force main can handle it, then we need to, I think we'll work up certain sections of the actual trunk. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because like I said, I think the force main and possibly that pump station, or really the force main, is a major issue at this point. I think, and what we'll probably recommend is just some analysis of that pump station, potentially some flow monitoring, because like all of our numbers are theoretical. That's how you start, but based on, good design standards and background information. But when there's wonky things, or when you really want to be certain, it's fairly cost effective to do flow monitoring, just to set it up at a few key locations. You kind of look at a couple of just quadrants of town, say, and then that you just compare each quadrant to sort of your design flow, and it's just a way to kind of check. So yeah, sorry, I've done a lot of talking here. I'm happy to take questions, but that's essentially what we've done. I guess the good news is that we were able to include a healthy chunk of funding in the application that was just submitted there last week, because I know that this will be fairly costly, and I couldn't say, how the magnitude of the scope, but we at least, I think, got a pretty good number in that would help address the pump station and the force main, and like the downstream collection bit. And I think that's, so yeah.
Okay. Does council have any questions? Go ahead, Ken.
Thanks. A couple questions. And again, I don't pretend to be an engineer, but my understanding is that usually the lines coming out of a pumping station are designed for the flow that pump would put out. And you don't want to get them too big or too small, because then you get too much pressure.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I think what's happened is virtually the collection system in Dutton is almost exactly what was designed in the 70s and constructed. And I think even that's the original pump station. And like, my guess is maybe what's happened is with pumping stations, you often might build the infrastructure for the ultimate build out, but you might not need near the biggest pumps, or, you might eventually need 3 pumps, but you just would have a duty pump and a standby to start. And I'm wondering if that's sort of how that's what happened, or maybe in the future it was meant to be twinned and it just never happened. But best case scenario, like the pumps that are in there could potentially be tuned to, pump at a higher rate. Maybe they don't need to be, sometimes we can replace impellers without a full pump. There's options to, if the pumps can work for now, and it's really just the force main that's the big limitation, I mean, that would be kind of, I think, the best case of, that scenario. Yeah.
I guess my second question is, I guess my concern, we're seeing some planned development at the south end of town and also on the east side of town. And and I guess some on the west side too. So if the Bonetto property as an example, if that was going to be developed, would it be feasible to look at a second pumping station in there that would take some of the flow out of the other system, kind of double it up, so we have two different sources?
Which would be the lands you're talking about? These ones?
To the west of that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, like, I guess if this was gonna be developed, I mean, it could just be pump out this way, if you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like residential.
Yeah, it's, yeah, that next property, I think about 2/3 of it is designated in our new official plan. That's not approved yet, but it's
I see.
working on it
I see.
to be residential. So that, of course, we need to expand the plant. That's fine, but I'm just wondering if that would make sense to put divide that sewage up into two streams so that we're not overloading the whole system.
It's very possible, like, I think once we get the, so I guess that's the other thing, as part of the work we did was we created this drainage area plan of the existing collection system, which is current, as well as the design sheet, such that, like, going forward, if you had to look at developments. Yeah, absolutely. You would be able to kind of plug that in, but I know as part of the EA that Dylan did, they looked at all those growth areas, but the collection system wasn't reviewed. That's kind of what we're looking at right now, and so I think it's pretty important if you're gonna start making major infrastructure upgrades, like, which I think you have to, and it's gonna start at the downstream part of the collection, basically the outlet. It only makes sense to sort of do a little bit of high level kind of master plan thinking, so that you sort of, are building out towards, a vision that's gonna be able to pick up and service, the areas that you're the EA considered for the wastewater treatment plant. Because it's one thing to have the capacity, but if you can't get the sewage there, then, it'd be very short-sighted, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, if that's the case, is that something we should be sitting down with that developer now and talking about? For a main going through there?
I don't know, I don't know how soon or how active. I know, talking to the mayor and Tracy, that it sounds like there's lots of interest. I guess I can't, this is a priority. We're working on it right now, but I have to caution you that, like, I'm very concerned about, I think even what's not actively contributing, but it's already been approved. I believe, there's a McDonald's and a seniors complex, and yeah, like I said, it's concerning. It's like, we're I wouldn't say I'm looking at it as like an emergency, because but I feel that it's sort of really at that tipping point here, and we've kind of caught it maybe just in time in a sense. And that, hopefully you're able to get some funding, and we can address the major bottlenecks at the downstream end. But I think in a very short period of time, like, once we confirm exactly what's going on, and if we decide we need to do a bit of flow monitoring to be sure, you absolutely want to be sitting down with some of those developers that own those plots of land and are sort of likely to be the ones that are going to develop, because if for example, it makes a lot more sense to just have this entire parcel with its own pump station and go directly to wherever, then, that could be something that you could discuss with the developer, such that it's going to be a municipally owned pumping station in the future. so that it meets all your, it's designed to your standards and, following, certain time period would be assumed and, that just becomes the next block of your collection system as you grow. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it makes sense to upgrade everything in the existing system and have it go through there, so.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about just draining that new development. I'm talking about picking up Leach Street and bringing some of that way. So that we have two separate twins and not bottlenecking our existing system.
I see. It's possible. It's possible. Like, we know that there's likely an issue here almost for certain. We want to vet that and make sure we're confident, like exactly how bad or what it is. And then there'll be alternatives, I guess, to fix it. And so, it might be we run the calcs that if this force main was upsized, this pump station, maybe the wet well's fine and it needs new pumps, but with the new technology these days, variable frequency drives where they can, operate very efficiently at low speeds and ramp up. Who knows? Maybe you don't need that double. Like, maybe it's just this is what's really the constraint. We don't know. But yeah, we know there's an issue. We would consider multiple, alternatives and sort of pros and cons, present that to staff council to. But I think these are like this is a pretty serious issue and we're going to try to vet the information as quickly as possible. And I think this, it's something we need to consider. The staff, I recommend that they consider it.
Would you say that our existing system is really not in that bad shape?
Yeah, it's like looking at, yeah, for sure. I mean, considering you have, over a kilometer of collection system, I mean, it is, asbestos concrete. So, I mean, that has its own issues when you're connecting with it and stuff. But I mean, in terms of, the structural integrity of it, it's actually quite good. This, calcite and these, accumulations is pretty normal. This could all be clean, like this could all be addressed with like a one-off specialty, like trenchless CCTV cleaning contract, and they just go in with the robots and kind of get, so this was not concerning. I think actually it's in great shape. I'm not really surprised, I guess not. Oh, sorry. Well, I'm not really surprised now when I look at the size of your collection system that so much of it appeared to be over capacity because the entire town is essentially 8-inch sewer, which is the minimum for sanitary collection system. So, there's a general rule of thumb where how many homes or people usually you can jam into that size of pipe before you get into, at least bigger pipe towards the outlet. And there's very minimal pipe in your sanitary system bigger than 8-inch, 200 millimeters. So
I guess, yeah, the next question is kind of to Tracy. We haven't seen that report, I don't think. Is that something we can get a copy of as councilors?
This one here?
Yes.
How long have you had that?
this year? Yeah, just got it. Yeah, so I believe, I don't know if it was it provided with no, okay. It's something that we could definitely share this right away. It is a draft. But as I said, it just goes through the assumptions and sort of the introduction and why we were hired and what we were looking at. And then it goes through the sort of the technical background on how we calculated the flow based on the design standards. And then it sort of highlights the sections of sewer that appeared to be not have minimum self-cleansing velocity, so not too flat. That's not really a concern, just FYI. I know I think it's like a rounding error because it's very close to 0.6, which is the number. So I'm not really concerned about any of that. It talks about the CCTV, and then in the back, you'll see this is the drainage area plan that we had created that I discussed. And then there's the Excel sheets, which is the actual technical calculations for the pipe. So you'll have that going forward. And then lastly is a summary of, so sort of this is just like the Coles notes, like the cheat sheet for all of the videos in the whole system. This is like, you know, of everything that you need to address, it's on these few pages, which is, like I said, your system is actually in relatively great shape considering it's, you know, 70s vintage and, yeah. Um,
I guess by the sounds of it, from having trouble sleeping, we could use that to.
Absolutely, yeah, little light reading material.
I'll make sure I'll send that out to council tomorrow
Okay.
so that you have it.
Anything, Councillor Dreyfus?
So the funding application considered from pump station number 1 down the Forest Main, is that what you considered in the application?
We kept it pretty general, at like very high level, just because like we only just completed this work and that's just very recently and it was kind of like, oh, geez, it's the application's due on Friday. So we kept it very high level and just sort of said there's improvements and upgrades required with the downstream piece of the, you know, phase of the collection system. And we figured, you know, if you're successful with the funding, it's not necessary. I don't think it'll get down to the exact details, like, you know, it kind of becomes buckets of money and, you know, you're upgrading the plant that like, and you know, you could, in some instances, say that the pump station 1 and the Forest Main are, you know, directly connected almost as a, you know, you can't upgrade the plant and not the pump station, you know, because they're like one almost connected as a unit. So, yeah.
Anything else from council? Go ahead, Ken.
I guess, and Tracy can maybe outline it to us later or now, whichever. I mean, the application, I don't know what we applied for or how much money, but it'd be nice to see that as well.
Yeah, I can send you guys a copy. 32.7 million, I think we applied for.
Yeah, is the total?
Yeah.
I think it's 74 dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, so we end up doing both phases and the bit for the upsizing of the Forest Main. It was stressful. I worked a 13-hour day trying to get that thing out.
Long application. I think
Yeah.
it's, I think with what you're doing, I hope it fits the bill. I think it hopefully will go along hopefully it will go a long ways that you've had already moved forward and Dylan had already completed the EA for the wastewater treatment plant. I know, based on my experience, municipalities have had better luck when they've, you know, felt that the need was there, that somehow they had to find the money to proceed with the initial work and weren't waiting on the funding saying, oh, this is really important, but we haven't started it. Whereas in this case you have, and that's like that's a good thing. So, fingers crossed, yeah.
And it was a short time frame. That funding was announced a couple of weeks ago or
What? Yeah.
not very long.
Yeah, like I think it wasn't much more than a month ago that it initially came out, and then just 2 weeks ago they announced adding I think 600 million to it, and so now it's a total of, I believe, the housing enabling 825 million is the fund, and I think the maximum one municipality could get, I think, is 30 million. So. And then basically it's just based on the application and it would be 74 dollars. Yeah. So
Rob Flack has our application in hand and he will do what he can with it. We're assured of that. So 30 million sounds like a lot of money, but it won't get us.
yeah, I should note that like, because the EA for the plant was already done and that likely gives you the best chance, although I think phase 1 of the plant gets you, I can't remember the number, but say another 500 cubic meters, and that's, you know, a decade or more of development likely based on Dutton. And like, so you don't really need, there's really no urgency to the second phase because that possibly gets you, you know, maybe 50 years plus of treatment capacity. But what you could do is if you're successful with the funding, I'm sure there would be a way to build the shell of the plant and maybe not, build it all out with all the equipment. And then you could stretch that money to, maybe upgrade more of your collection system. And because, like I said, you don't need phase two likely for maybe 20 plus years. So the idea is that hopefully you're just successful getting as much of the funding as possible, and then we'll figure out the best way, what makes the most sense for the system between the plant and the kind of the downstream collection system. Yeah.
Okay, and my previous conversation with you, it wasn't just the force main, you were concerned about some of the infrastructure here in town that's undersized as well.
Yes, the main concerns were Shackleton Street and basically a lot of Curry Road, and then where it, sorry, I forget this. Yeah, that where it comes off the main street, the sanitary, even though the main street, the sanitary goes straight through. So on McIntyre, this is basically the trunk for kind of this whole side of town. And I was seeing like like having concerns like from this pump station, like all the way quite a ways up to here. But again, because there's so many pump stations, like, and it's very important that we get those numbers right, because pumps can pump anywhere on their pump curve, and there's an ideal spot, but that doesn't mean they're all operating at their best efficiency. And when we look at these collection systems, you have to basically consider what the worst case is for the pump station. So even though it might only pump for 30 seconds every couple of hours, when it pumps, you have to make sure that the downstream system can handle that flow when it's pumping for those 30 seconds. And so it's very important to know what actually these 5 pump stations are actually pumping at. And so, because there's enough variation, and this is where we know there's a serious issue, so we really got to get the accuracy of our design sheet nailed down, and then I can sort of assess better sort of the extents of the concern. It looks maybe worse than it is, because like I said, if we figure out that this force main is half the size that it should be, and that just cleans up a lot of the bottleneck, like that's a very real possibility. And I think that'll be a next step, that once we have this working exactly as it's performing today, then it'll probably be an assessment of your pump state, like sort of the next steps to, best, I guess, efficiently, spend the funding that you're hopefully going to get, to kind of ready your system.
That's kind of interesting. You talked about the capacity in McIntyre Street, because that's something that was addressed back when your firm designed the pumping station out by the McDonald's. The one thing that we did in conjunction with that was take the pumping station at the fire hall and change the outlet so that went down John Street and into Mary instead of behind the McIntyre. So you may want to look in those old files. I'm trying to remember the guy's name who did that. Funny name.
T-Hammer?
Yeah, TM.
Yep. Okay. How long ago would that have been, Ken?
Just think for a minute. About 2010.
Okay. Yeah, T-Hammer's sort of semi-retired now, but yeah, he's definitely with us still, so I definitely could talk to him about that, and we'll look into that. And this is where it's like really important for any little things that I say nothing's been done since it's been built, but I know that's not true. There's been probably a few things, right? So all these little nuances are very important. And the last thing I guess I forgot to mention is I think there was a block of land over here in this, down in this corner. And so the other thing to note, that as you're considering upgrading the existing system to account for the, the shortcomings now, but also future growth, like there could be an opportunity, like if this developer really wanted to get going, for there to be some cost sharing because, you know, they want to get going, you need to upgrade this, and so there's a benefit to both. Or if somehow they're able to get the flow to the pump station, but the pump station, then that, you know, forces an upgrade to there, like there could be, you know, it's very common, I guess, where there's big developments that come in, it forces an upgrade, and so you negotiate some sort of cost sharing of that infrastructure, upfront. Yeah.
Anything else? You read that, you'll have a bunch more, but you know, I finally feel like we're at a point where we're starting to get some answers here. You know, we've been not understanding it fully, and I think I'm starting to get a better understanding now.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not super common, like I said, to see the situation you're in right now, but like I said, now like we're not that it's like the, you know, a 10 out of 10 great situation, but it's great to have knowledge, and you know, we can put that information and knowledge to good use here, and like I said, once we sort of get this dialed into where I'm happy with it, you know, once we model that force main, like I said, maybe you want, you know, once you model a 12-inch, like a lot of this issue that shows backing up all the way to McIntyre, you know, who knows, like maybe a lot of that you know, some of it gets sorted out. I mean, I'm not gonna, don't get me wrong, like you know, I was seeing like 40% of your main trunk being over capacity, so it's not like the force main's gonna eliminate all of that, but you know, it could have a very significant impact, like improving it if it was the appropriate size, possibly. So, yeah.
And replacing a force main across an open piece of dirt
Yep.
field is one thing, but ripping up Mary Street and Center Street is quite another thing.
Exactly. And so that's the other thing is, you know, it's, you know, say not a great situation, but really it's sort of a good bad situation because you don't have to actually rip up your whole town to fix it. If the problem literally could be addressed in the short term by upgrading pump station 1 and putting in a bigger force main, I mean, that's pretty awesome if that gets you,
let's hope,
a decade of, you know, where it's not like you're, you know, sweating bullets on wondering if things are going to back up, or like it just kind of takes the pressure off. So, yep.
Okay, anything further from council? From staff? Thank you,
Okay.
Jason.
No problem.
You've
Thank you.
enlightened us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Jason's so
Yeah.
happy with me. He gets panic emails at 8 o'clock Friday night. Help me.
Do we have copies of this that we can share with council, or is that coming from Jason of that report?
I have,
I
can leave this hard copy.
No, I think I have a draft that,
I've sent you a PDF of it.
yeah, I can print it for them. Yeah, I was just waiting for you to come and speak on it. So, yeah. So I will send it off to them. So, yeah.
And let me know if, like I said, it is a draft, like we're fine tuning things, but, I think, you know, the gist of certainly everything I've talked about is in here now.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the drainage department. We have a section 4 petition for drainage works. It's the Zach McCollum drain. That was part of your package, council. Is there any questions from council on that? Brent's not with us, but pretty straightforward. Okay, Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives and decides to proceed with the section 4 petition for the Zach McCollum drain received from Ian and Alan McKillop, and that council appoints Spreed Associates Limited to prepare the necessary report, and that notice of council's decision to appoint the engineer be sent to all petitioners, the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, OMAFRA, and Spreet Associates Limited. All in favor?
Just one quick question. I'm in favor. I just noticed that on the application, only Alan McKillop was listed. Both of them weren't.
There was two.
So there is 2 petitions there. One is signed by Ian McKillop and one is signed by Alan McKillop.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I only got one.
Well, it's one document, but it's got both petitions in there. Okay, sorry, and that's carried.
On to planning, and Tracy is with us here today, and she's going to talk to us about Bill 185, Cutting Red Tape to Building More Homes Act. And I think this has been revised again. So help us understand, Tracy.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, last Monday, we received notification that a series of legislative changes have been presented, specifically for the purpose of creating new homes and cutting red tape. So the Planning Act is the first item that is listed in my report, and I just want to highlight the key items that might directly affect Dutton Dunwich. The changes to the Ontario Land Tribunal, they've flip-flopped on this one, but now they are going back to saying that there are no third-party appeals on any official plan or zoning bylaw amendment applications. So the only people who can appeal would be as the applicant or a public body like the Conservation Authority, or a specified person. And that specified person is defined under the Act as generally like a utility company or a railway. So that takes the, I guess, the NIMBYism out of a lot of development. And if there's any OLT appeals that were in the queue for the OLT, they would automatically not be scheduled. That does not impact us. The appeals that we do have are not subject to that exemption. Pre-consultation has been another thing that has been flip-flopping. It is no longer mandatory, it is now voluntary. I don't anticipate that we would change our process because pre-consultation is a really benefit to both the municipality and the applicant to be able to identify what applications are needed, get municipal feedback at an early stage, and identify the support studies. So it just means that you wouldn't be able to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal because of a prolonged pre-consultation period. There's some use it or lose it requirements now under site plan control. It says that if you don't pull a building permit within a period of time, and the regs are anticipated that it would be 3 years that your site plan control could expire. Some municipalities already enforce that. A lot of municipalities just let it ride, and we just let it ride. We don't pressure developers to move forward, but that might impact some of the development that do take a long time to get organized. Plans of subdivision already have an expiry date, but it is also subject to that expiry completely. Allocations, that includes that allocation policy. So this one's a little bit confusing. Essentially, my take is that you no longer can do an allocation bylaw. You can only do a allocation policy. So that policy I brought to council a couple weeks ago, that was a policy. So that would fall perfectly in if council were ever to use that approach. Public notices, that is a direct impact because it is there to allow us to now count website as a required notification process, especially when local papers are not available. I may still put an ad in the local newspaper because I understand like 25% of the residents do get notification through the newspaper, but it's not readily available as it used to be. So it's good that if we have no communication with the newspaper as a future option moving forward, then we know that we can do it through the website. And then additional residential units. So what they've done is allowed the rural ones now to be discretionary. Now Dutton Dunwich already has ARUs in your official plan and zoning, so you have taken advantage of that option, but now it's fairly clear and stated that you can have that discretionary, but not as of right. Only as of right would be in the urban area. So the Development Charges Act, because now that you are dealing with a bylaw, we'll need to keep you up to date on that. The 5-year phase-in of increased development charges will now be revoked. So I don't quite know how that's actually going to impact your particular bylaw because you're still in the appeal period, I believe. So we will need to get some advice from Watson and Associates. And then studies, this one has gone back and forth. So something like a official plan background study or a CIP background study could actually be recoverable under DC, where it was removed recently, but it used to be there about 10 years ago. So that's a good thing moving forward. With respect to the provincial policy statements, there are just a few minor adjustments. So if you recall, the PPS 2023 was revamped, and this 2024 version is based on that feedback that was received. The rural severances are still out. If you recall, you were allowed to have 3 severances per agricultural property. Then the ministry pulled that out, and now it is definitely kept out, but they didn't come back with anything different. They've just kept it out. They did allow a little bit more flexibility for rural residential to be able to develop on partial services, a little bit more flexibility on creating new settlement areas. So I know that there's some discussions about possible new settlement areas in like Talbot Estates, where the marina is proposed, and Chircano. So those could be something that council could consider in the future as new settlement areas. And then the settlement boundary expansions, they're fairly similar, but a little bit more flexible, not as strict. But you still have to make sure that if you're going to adjust your boundaries, that you have to still comply with MDS, and you shouldn't take any prime agricultural land out of productivity. So those are the key highlights that I thought that you should be aware of. Because of this very small period of commenting, most of these are listed on the ERO or due in 2 weeks. The advice is trust the organizations like AMO and the Ontario Professional Planning Institute. They have had very direct communication with the province on your behalf. So I feel comfortable with what they've been proposing to them. But there isn't still an opportunity for council to add anything in. You can do it individually, or you can direct staff to provide comments to the ERO. May 1st, I think, was the deadline. Actually, some of them are all a little different. So we'll just say the end of the month. So happy to answer any questions you might have. Is it end of April or May 1st? No, it was just 30 days. So 30 days of last Monday.
Thank you, Tracy. Is any question from council on this ever-evolving legislation? And it's still not cast in stone yet.
That's correct. That a lot of the implementation will come in a second stage of regulations. These are just the main acts.
And Watson is going to follow up on our development charges where we fall in this whole thing now.
Yes, we will have to communicate with them to confirm how this is going to impact your new bylaw.
Okay. Thank you. We're all good? Everybody understands it all? Okay. Thank you, Tracy.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Bill 185, Cutting Red Tape to Building More Homes Act 2024, dated April 24th, 2024, for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. On to correspondence. Item A is the City of Peterborough jurisdiction of Ontario Ombudsman. Anyone wish to comment on that one? I see nothing. Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that correspondence item 9A from the City of Peterborough be received and filed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item B, Elgin Children's Foundation, a proclamation of June 8th, 2024 as Lemonade Day. And we don't make these types of proclamations, but any comments on how to handle that one? Councillor Dreyfus.
If you don't mind, I'd prefer not to move the motion. I know we don't make proclamations. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but I prefer not to because I know all the people involved here. So I'd prefer not to make the motion, so.
Is there anyone that would like to move the motion?
We just accepting it to table it.
So
Can we just read the
I could,
motion?
yeah, so whereas the municipality of Dutton Dunwich policy A 35/2021 non-proclamation policy states that council shall not make or authorize a formal endorsement of any non-municipal sponsored or initiated event, message, interest, or activity. Now therefore that correspondence item 9B from the Elgin Children's Foundation be received and filed.
Yeah, I can move it.
Seconder for that?
Yeah.
That's for Pam.
So all in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Item C, Municipality of Huron Shores urging the government to promptly resume assessment cycle. Like a broken record. Comments? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the municipality of Huron Shores, calling upon the premier to promptly resume the assessment cycle to ensure the stability and predictability of property taxes while the government conducts its review of the property assessment and taxation system, or respond with an alternative method for every municipality in Ontario to achieve fair taxation, and that a copy of this resolution will be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the municipality of Huron Shores. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item D, Municipality of St. Charles, household food insecurity. Anyone wish to comment on that one? I see nothing. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Public Health Sudbury and districts, calling upon the provincial government to incorporate local food affordability findings in determining adequacy of social assistance rates to reflect the current costs of living and to index Ontario Works rates to inflation going forward. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, the municipality of St. Charles, and the Public Health Sudbury and districts. All in favor? And that's carried.
And item E is Western Ontario Wardens Caucus support for small business enterprise center funding. I believe this is an item that's in the county budget. We do provide some funding for this. So, is there any other comments from council? I don't see any. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus requesting the province continue to fund SBECs and increase annual amounts in line with inflation and population growth, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. All in favor? And that's carried.
The Municipality of West Perth, the Conservation Authorities Act. Comments from council? Go ahead.
Just speak a little bit on that, and I don't know if we need to support this or not, but I just want to make the statement that the conservation authorities are really under the gun with all of the new rules and regulations. They have to get adopted by the end of the year. So I don't think this is going to be that big of a hardship. They're working on all this stuff. They have to redo all kinds of policies by the end of this month, or maybe the first of this month. But yeah, first of this month. So it's putting staff at the conservation authorities kind of behind the eight ball, all this extra work they have to do. And it's like a lot of things when you're dealing with Uncle Doug. Things changed very quickly and kind of get something half ready and it's changed again. So I know pretty frustrating level. So
It's extra work with the same staff.
yeah.
Okay. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the municipality of West Perth, recommending to the province that any proposed changes contemplated by the province be put on hold until such time that the planning statement is finalized and communicated to municipalities, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the municipality of West Perth. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item G, Hastings County, sustainable infrastructure funding for small rural municipalities. Any comments on that one? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drulard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from Hastings County calling on the provincial and federal government to implement sustainable infrastructure funding for small rural municipalities and not to overlook or disregard on future applications for funding, to acknowledge that there is an insurmountable debt facing small rural municipalities, and to immediately commission a working group to develop a plan on how to deal with the impending debt dilemma. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and Hastings County. All in favor? And that's carried.
And another one.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. The consent agenda, we have two items. It's Watson Associates assessment of Bill 185 and Elgin County Council highlights of April 9th, 2024. Does council wish to speak to either one of those items? I don't see anything. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
We'll just soldier on here. Council's good. Item 11 is our CAO Treasurer's Report, Dymic Line Housekeeping. Go ahead, Tracy, please.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, so this is kind of the last little bit of information that, so we can answer the delegation's questions. We inherited this land back in '84. It was an old road when they changed the Walker Bridge. So it came to our attention that we had, neither us or the county had ever actually closed the road. So I'm bringing this up to do a bylaw to close the road and then put it back, declare it as surplus land, and then say we're going to sell it. So it's kind of all one in package of some housekeeping. But we did receive an email this afternoon, which the delegate mentioned. Came from Mary Simpson and Ross Schneider about they were the stewards of this land for quite a while, and there was some archaeological digs. They're not saying we can't sell it. They just want it to be made aware, whoever buys it, to be respectful of the land. But I got reading through it, and actually, when I'm reading it, I have to spend a little more time because it just came in. But it looks like the initial report was the new road where they excavated, not the land we're selling.
I would think so.
Yeah, so I don't think it's, because I know that he said he's coming back next week to talk about this stuff, which we're aware of, and they're not raising a fuss about it. They're just want it to be made aware that this is be respectful of this land. So, but I did send it to the county to see if I can get information, and we will definitely look into it. And Tracy and I did talk, and Tara, and I did send this to the Conservation Authority before we even decided to list it, and they're okay with us building on it. They don't have a problem. And I'm assuming, but I could be wrong, that anything shouldn't be disturbed will be closer to the water anyways, and they can't build there anyways. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that we did get this. I can forward this email if you guys would like it. It's got some information. I have forwarded it to the engineer at the county to see if he can do some research for me. But just my quick first reading of it said something about the new road seemed to be the problem, not this lot that we're selling. Yeah. So yeah, but anyways, yeah. But I mean, no matter what, when you are building near the water, you need to be respectful of, because that's where the indigenous people used to live, right along the water. So, anyways, my recommendation is that we passed bylaw 2024-19 to close the old County Road 5 and declare it as surplus land, and we list it for sale again. So,
Maybe you could just update council on where we're at with that right now. But you talked to Mike Brady today and
oh, yeah, so this gentleman was right. When we decided to halt the sale, Mike Brady did a 2-week halt. And then he just realized today that it was over and he got 3 or 4 calls already on it. So he came in and had me sign it to stop it again. That's why he said it was up for sale. And that's why I had to tell him, yeah, we had to sign it again. So, but these were the last little bit of information that we wanted to make sure we had before we gave him all. He has all the answers. He just doesn't like them. But when we send him back all the answers again, we want to make sure that we have covered all our bases and he has it all. So.
Are we going to wait to put it back on the market until we send the letter? Or-
Yeah, I think we did a few days. I want to talk to Mike. We're also waiting. We think we're good, but there's also a pig farm, which you can't build with unless you're within so many, you know, the technical term.
Yeah, so there'll be MDS 1 for
Yeah,
that, so,
yeah.
you know, we're actually in a bit of a. So right now over that. But yeah, so I think, you know, and Jackie or Tracy, either one of them would be able to do those calculations to make sure that that lot is a
Yeah.
buildable lot. So I would definitely recommend asking
Jack,
staff to look at it and say, yes, there is a building envelope
yeah,
here.
yeah. Jackie did a
for
quick
MDS.
calculation for me based on a 35,000 square
Yep.
footprint and with 400
Yep.
what is it? Units,
Nutrient units.
nutrient units. And it came out to 535 meters. We have 700 meters. But she was just thinking we need to have the real numbers. So I
You
think
do, but
we,
you can approximate, like OMAFRA has calculations for barn size and how many animals are
Mhm.
supposed to be in that barn.
yeah,
They are, most times the numbers are actually less,
Mm.
but the odd time they are a little bit more. So yeah,
yeah.
but realistically, it's up to the purchaser to figure that out for sure. But if we can say we did it based on the barn size, the number of animals that are OMAFRA would allow in that building, that gave us still an extra 200 meters. We felt comfortable that there was a building.
And that's why
As long as we can say we've done our due
Yeah.
diligence, I think we're fine.
with Mike Brady and I, we want to make sure that we have, that's something else he can, like, we want to make sure if somebody's going to build on the lot, we've done our due diligence to say they can. And so, and this guy, I know he just doesn't want a neighbor and this is,
If you
It's
don't
kind of-
like the neighbors beside you, buy the property.
I did tell Murray he does need a place to store all his crap.
Just want to make the comment, adding to what Corey said, like, there's already restrictions on that farmer by the houses on either side of that lot, so it's not like you're putting a new lot out in the country that's gonna really change the farmers around it, their restrictions.
one of the issues we ran into, I think I know the owner of the farm, but they don't have the livestock in the farm. So we're trying to get that animal numbers and it's been a challenge, put it that way. But we did get that email and we're gonna put a letter in the mailbox to ask them to respond to Mike Brady and get a little more information on animal numbers so we can nail this thing down. And Mike Brady's bound and bent to go out there, but there are biosecurity issues here. And I said, Mike, don't wander in there. You're gonna really upset the apple cart. So we're delicately handling this thing.
And in absence of somebody providing that information for you, building officials are allowed to assume based on those OMAFRA numbers. So, because there are times that no, I'm not telling you how many animals are in there. It's none of your business. So we do run into that. So it's not, typically we don't, but every now and again you have. So that's why they do have an animal per square foot, per square meter, whatever size that you can use. It's kind of a bit of a reverse process, but you can use it and it's perfectly legal.
So how would we determine, could we do it by geo-referencing the size of the barn and work that way?
Ideally, you would have a building permit for the barn that would tell you how much square footage is. In absence of that, again,
So West Belgian burns.
It's in West
what I'm thinking.
Um, you can do an aerial for, like, for what our purposes is, I think we could do an aerial measurement from our mapping and that would be sufficient enough. For building permit purposes, that may not be sufficient enough. But for our purposes, for sale of the property, I think that
I
would be.
think that's how Jackie got the 35 square foot. I think she did in the area, so, yeah.
Okay, good to know. That it? That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Drulart, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of CAO Treasurer titled Dymock Line Housekeeping dated April 24th, 2024 for information, and that council passed bylaw 2024-19 closing the old Elgin County Road known as Part Lot 1, Concession C, Broken Front Dunwich, being a forced road, aka County Road 5, abutting Part 2, 11R 538 and Part 1, 11R 3683, Dutton Dunwich, and that council declare this lot as surplus land, and that council lists the property for sale through a real estate agent. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business from anybody?
Just a couple quick questions to Tracy. We're applying for that $30 million grant. Do we not need a resolution of council to support that? No, don't think it's even.
No, no, usually you do, and I went through and you didn't need one this time.
Okay. The other quick question is, I think I heard there was some recreation grant money coming out. Have you seen anything on that?
I did see that and I forwarded it on to Charlotte to look at.
Oh, like to apply for, sorry, I'm like, we got money? I know we got the $5,000 for Canada Day yesterday, the day before. But
I'm
yeah,
just wondering
yeah.
if that's
I'm like-
something we should get involved with minor ball on, if they can piggyback that on what they've done. And so
Yeah, we could, yeah. So we got 5,000. It wasn't at the meeting. I was there at the meeting, but it wasn't, we didn't have the money.
Yeah, I got the email night before last.
Okay.
Cause it was funny, cause Charlotte asked me if I'd heard anything and I went, no.
Yeah, she was.
And then I got home and I'm like, I emailed, I said, is this your money? So,
So
yeah.
just to clarify, what's the recreation grant?
capital grant. So
Capital
like-
grant.
Like if they want to do ball diamond work.
Okay.
Is that a provincial?
Yeah, I think it was announced as part of the provincial budget, but I hadn't heard anything yet.
Okay.
I know, I'm looking at it for the radio too, so you could talk with them.
yeah.
Yep. So if Clerk Tara, if you could advise Charlotte or the recreation committee or whatever, that'd be great. So, yeah.
Let's put our hand out. Any other unfinished business? Any new business? Any announcements?
Just that we've lost our AP clerk for up to 6 weeks. I didn't do anything to her. So we're a little short again, so. So if you don't see.
That's what all we could say. Okay, anything else? Let's go to proposed bylaws. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulart, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2024-19 being a bylaw to stop up and close a part of the municipal road allowance established as Part Lot 1, Concession C, Broken Front Dunwich, being a forced road, aka County Road Number 5, abutting Part 2, 11R 538, and Part 1, 11R 3683, Dutton Dunwich, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And the next thing is closed, so anybody need a couple minutes break? While Tara locks us down or get us into closed?
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:18 PM in accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, section 2392F of the Municipal Act for Miller Road. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, take a few minutes.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2024-20 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And the next meeting's listed there. Nothing further, we will adjourn.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:41 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.